you something that's tangential to this, and that has to do with a question that I asked last week
Okay.
on Friday before I was gone
Okay.
about the Clinton Foundation
Mhm.
and whether or not have you addressed this in the Monday,
A
Tuesday, or
little bit, but
Wednesday?
what?
Well, there's another report today. I mean, they keep coming and
Mhm.
coming and coming. All these reports, and this one today's has to do with this health access initiative,
Right.
and I'm just wondering, does these reports raise questions? They don't answer necessarily the questions
Mhm.
about whether there was any conflict of interest, but does the department believe that there is a problem here and that these revelations have created the appearance, at least, of a potential conflict of interest, or plural conflicts of interest, that
Right.
should be looked into?
Well, a couple points, and it's a very good question, Matt. First, as I've said many times, I think last week, she undertook these responsibilities voluntarily, that went above and beyond sort of the normal responsibilities she would have had in assuming this position. So she went above and beyond what her typical responsibilities would have been. These were voluntary. We have said that we reviewed what was submitted to us, whether it was speeches. Obviously, we've said that we reviewed everything that was submitted. We've also said that if there were things that should have been submitted that weren't, obviously we would have wished they would have been. But I also haven't seen any evidence, and I haven't talked to anyone who's seen any evidence of any link between actions taken by Secretary Clinton and donations to the Clinton Foundation or speech honorariums of the former president, which are the two things that fall under the MOU she signed. So, I know there's a lot of reports coming out. We have a lot of questions about them, I'm sure, are going to continue coming up. But I think that's sort of where we are on this issue.
But doesn't the department think that it is problematic that these oversights or omissions were were made in the first place? And have you
Well,
asked for an explanation?
a couple. I don't know the answer to the second question, but to your first question, I wouldn't automatically assume that. I don't think anyone should assume that it was. As I said, if there were things that should have been submitted that weren't, we obviously would have appreciated the opportunity to review them per the MOU. But I am also not going to recreate history and sort of recreate the facts at the time about how a review would have played out if they had been. So I don't want to automatically assume that it would be problematic
No,
or that it was problematic.
the, no. The question isn't whether the actual specific donations were problematic, because you don't know, because they were never submitted to you for approval or
And I don't
disapproval.
think you should,
I'm not.
not you, but people
I'm not
should
assuming
assume
anything,
that's
but
why they weren't
isn't that
submitted.
in itself, the fact that this happened, problematic? Or maybe it's not. I don't know.
I just don't. I don't have much more for you on this. I
And
know there's a lot of reports coming out. I'm sure we'll be talking about this much more in the coming days and weeks.
And the other thing, you say that this was
Correct.
undertaken voluntarily, but I mean, it was undertaken voluntarily only because she wanted the job, and she might not have gotten confirmed by the
Well,
Senate had it not. That's not
I'm
really voluntary, is it?
I'm happy for you to talk to her or
Okay, but I just
to
want.
other folks on that about why she undertook this
Can
step.
you find? I mean, has the State Department, to which these things were supposed to be reported, and maybe they weren't supposed to be reported? I don't know, because my understanding was that it only applied to, at least in terms of the foundation, to government, to government, foreign governments giving money, and that individuals.
Any new donations or substantial
Right,
increases
and
too. So nothing ongoing. So I think.
but but
Yep. Go
that
ahead.
individual donations and donations from charitable organizations were not required to be
I think
reported.
there's
So
been some question about what was supposed to and what wasn't, and so I'm trying to get a little more for you on that because I understand the importance of the questions, and I don't want to misspeak here. So in general, that's why I sort of said where our thinking is on this, and if we have more to share, I'm happy to do so.
but mainly what I'm trying to find out is whether or not the actual donations were problematic or not. Isn't the fact that they weren't disclosed problematic? You say that you would have appreciated it, you would have
Right.
welcomed it had it happened, but it didn't happen.
Right.
So is that a problem for the department, and are you asking for some kind of an explanation?
I just don't have much more for you on this today.